Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. For the past few weeks, Karnataka has been in the news because a number of different colleges in the state have been prohibiting Muslim girl students from wearing the hijab. Now, hijab is a headscarf that is worn by some Muslim women, and it typically covers the head and the neck but leaves the face open, unlike a niqab or a burqa, which includes a veil for the face. Hijab bans like these have happened in Karnataka in the past as well, and the places where these bans have taken place, like Udupi, are particularly prone to communal tensions between Hindu and Muslims. And it seems that the politics of the region has a lot to do with the current situation. In this episode, we talk about how this controversy started, how connected it is to the politics of coastal Karnataka, and what the government's response has been so far. And for this, we first speak to Indian Express's Kiran Parashar, who reports on Karnataka for the newspaper. So Kiran, you have been reporting on this controversy for the past few weeks now. How did this entire matter start?
So it all started in the month of December when one of the colleges in Chikmagaluru district, which is again communally prone district, in a PU college, girls came wearing hijab and they were stopped and they were told that you are not supposed to wear a hijab inside the college, and it has been the rule. So then there was a certain amount of opposition from the Hindu students as well by wearing saffron shawls. Then what happened was the college principal took stock of the situation and he held a meeting which includes CDMC, College Development Monitoring Committee. It comprises of the local MLA, parents of few children, college representatives, and also education department representatives, the local representatives. So they held a meeting and they decided that whatever the rules are there, the government college has its own rules saying that the girl can wear hijab or burqa, whatever, but when she enters class and sits inside class, she has to remove everything.
And these were the rules of that specific college?
Yeah. In Karnataka, there is no specific rule chalked out by the government. When we speak of December, there was no specific guidelines of who to wear what in education institutions as such. If you see, for the government colleges or the government schools, it is left to the College Development Monitoring Committee or School Development Monitoring Committee to decide whether they can allow hijab or other form of attire inside the classroom. That is one. For the private colleges, their administration will decide on what to wear and what not to wear and what is the dress code. So in dress code, the state government doesn't involve and it is left to the local administration. So this case was resolved with the consultation of parents who agreed to the decision of the committee and said, okay, the hijab won't be any kind of issue. Okay, we will ask our children to take out hijab when they enter inside the college. So this was the first incident.
So this incident, like you said, was resolved by just talking to parents and students, and it was decided that the girls, when entering college, will take off the hijab. When and where did the next controversy start?
The next controversy started in the last week of December when a set of students were denied entry into the class at Udupi Government Girls College, PU College, where there are around 700 students. Some 12 to 15 Muslim students took objection that they were not allowed inside the college class for wearing hijab. So this is again a communally prone area of Udupi district. Even before the issue came into light, Campus Front of India came to their support, and then the college administration stick to whatever the rules was. According to them, they say the Muslim girl students are allowed to wear hijab till they arrive to their desk. Once the class starts, they are supposed to remove it. It's a college which is built in 1985. So they say it has been followed for all these years. While this has been the claim of college administration, I visited Udupi and I spoke to the girls. They say that the hijab was being allowed inside the college in classroom, but very recently they banned entry of students who are wearing hijab. So these students were sitting within the premises of the college during the class hours, but were not allowed to sit inside the classroom. So their photos started going viral on social media and other places, and Campus Front of India came into the picture. So soon after that, again, the decision was made that they won't allow hijab at any cost.
And you mentioned Campus Front of India and how even before the issue became big, they came to support these girls. Now, Campus Front of India, we know, is connected to the Popular Front of India, which is an Islamist organization. But could you talk about how the two are connected?
Okay, so Campus Front of India is a student wing of Popular Front of India, PFI. SDPI, a Social Democratic Party of India, is the political wing of PFI. So SDPI, which has a presence in coastal district, especially in Udupi and Dakshina Kannada, in the recently concluded urban local body elections, they managed to get 3 seats. So according to all these BJP leaders and other things, they say that all this issue cropped up after they won 3 seats and they wanted to polarize more votes, or they wanted to secure this Congress vote bank, or they wanted to consolidate Muslim vote bank. This was one of the arguments by the BJP leaders. Whereas when I spoke to students, they said that this issue was there from a long time. Just because there was no offline classes, the issue was not debated. But when we raised it, we were always told that they would look into the matter and they would just forget about that. And the students said that, yes, we sought support from CFI because we were also fighting for our fundamental rights. And many of the politicians and many of them say that this is quite a politically motivated act. If you see from the ground, it looks very evident that it might be an act of politically motivated issue.
And what is the reason that it appears politically motivated? Because this is something that many people suspect.
So there are 2 things. One is that here we are speaking about SDPI, the political wing of PFI, which has gained 3 seats for the first time in their history. So this issue was helping them to capture the Muslim pockets in Udupi and Dakshina Kannada. That is one. And second thing is, BJP is the real beneficiary ahead of assembly polls in this. So some of the leaders to whom I spoke to, they also said that they won't be surprised even if BJP is behind this, or the BJP leaders are behind this, because it is going to polarize votes and it is going to help them in the assembly elections. I also spoke to Udupi district Muslim organization. There is a head for all the masjids and for all the pro-Muslim organizations. They told me that they support hijab, but they say that the way this issue was transpired, they were not happy with that. They did not like the way it was projected.
Okay, so you have a situation where this college is not allowing entry to Muslim students wearing a hijab, and the students are being supported essentially by the PFI. How did we see this controversy unfold further to the point that it became a national story?
So one is that when this controversy erupted in this place, it went for almost a month or so. Then it also started to spread to other parts. Might not be that the college denied entry of hijab, but in few of the colleges, students started appearing with saffron shawls, which is backed by pro-Hindu organizations. So this became a tit for tat in those places.
And by tit for tat, you mean if other students are going to wear a hijab, then we also are going to wear a saffron shawl.
Yeah, if you want to show your religious identity, then fine. I'll also show my religious identity by wearing saffron shawl. So that was one point. And second thing was, at the same time, as the government did not have any kind of set rule on uniform code, and it had left to the schools and colleges to decide on it, this became an issue. And students were being denied to attend class from 1 month. And there was this news doing rounds every day. We were reporting about the incident every day. Then when it started in other colleges, for example, Kundapura College, where the principal closed gates for the students of Kundapura Government College says that they were being allowed to wear hijab inside classroom. And the principal all of a sudden changed the rule and said that they won't allow hijab inside the classroom. So this came out of a shocker for Muslim students. Because in Udupi College, they say that there was no rule. But here in Kundapur College, The students were being allowed to wear hijab, and all of a sudden they were being asked to not to wear hijab, and their entry was denied, and principal himself came and closed gates for the students. The video which went very viral.
Yeah, and there is also this clip where you can hear these girls arguing with the principal about why the rules of what to wear have been changed.
So then leaders like Rahul Gandhi, Mehbooba Mufti, Omar Abdullah, Shashi Tharoor, everybody started reacting to it. As the session is also going on, and the session in Karnataka is also scheduled to start next week. So this issue made headlines and it started spreading.
And Kiran, another thing that we have seen take place is that one college actually allowed, girls who were wearing hijab inside the campus, but the girls were made to sit in separate classrooms. Could you talk a bit about that incident?
So the students started sitting outside the gate and started protesting against the government and the college move of not allowing them to wear hijab inside classroom, and they started staging protest. So considering that, principal decided that they would accommodate a separate room for these students who are wearing hijab to sit. On Monday, Karnataka State Education Minister B.C. Nagesh told that it was inhuman to make students sit on the roads. We did not want to do that, and this is not our tradition. So we have given them a separate room where they can sit. But the thing is, the students have told that if that was your concern, you would have allowed us to sit inside the class other than making us to discriminate by making us to sit somewhere else. These students were also being asked to sit for online class if they don't wish to remove hijab. These students were being asked to sit for online class, which also the students felt that it was discrimination just because they wanted to wear whatever of their choice, they were being discriminated.
Also, the other thing I was wondering is that out of all the Muslim girls in, say, the college in Udupi, how many of them have been demanding that the hijab should be allowed?
When I went to Udupi, the college has some 700 students. Out of them, 76 students were belonging to Muslim community. Out of them, 14 students started to demand for hijab. So when I spoke to Muslim students, I asked them, see, you have 76 students in your college and not all of you have a problem, but why only these 14 students are having a problem? They said that many of them backed off because of there were a lot of threats from the college, from the faculties, stating that if you do this, you won't get internal marks or we won't allow you to sit for the exams. So they were quite afraid and they backed off. And later what happened was, initially this protest started with 14 and the numbers decreased to 6. And the students claimed that they also had to go out of the protest, succumb to the pressure or the threats of the college administration or management. This is what their claim is.
And Kiran, while reporting on this, you also spoke to the parents of some of these students who are being denied entry for wearing hijabs. Could you talk about some of the things they told you?
See, I spoke to a couple of parents about what is important to you, whether the girl education or this tradition. So many of the parents did not have education beyond 12th standard. So one is that they wanted their children to study, as well as at the same time they wanted to carry their tradition. They did not want to deflect that. In a case I asked that, what is your priority, education or the hijab thing which is being, if someday your daughter is not allowed to attend exam just because she is wearing a hijab, what would you do? I asked this to a parent and he said, I don't mind, let her not attend exam. That was his words. If you go to Udupi, one thing is very clear. You speak to any person and that person will be at an extreme end when it comes to the religious ideology and all these things. There is a clear polarization. They are at their extreme ends. You don't find many of them giving a neutral opinion or looking the issue objectively.
Okay, so in that sense, could you talk a bit more about this region? Like you spoke about Udupi, Kundapur, Chikmagalur. How much does the politics of this coastal region have to do with this controversy?
The coastal Karnataka is also called as Hindutva lab. So it is always said that RSS tries to test some communal things here. And if it succeeds, it is next spread to other parts of the state. It is known for that. So the communal incidents before elections is not a new thing to Dakshina Kannada or Udupi district. We have seen murders before 2018 assembly polls here in this place. It's not a new phenomenon as such. Whereas the political dynamics here in Karnataka is also changing, like of BJP. So Karnataka till date, even BJP was there. It was mostly based on caste lines that the parties would go and seek votes. For example, we had B.S. Yediyurappa as chief minister, who was also projected as mass Lingayat leader. With that, he used to manage other BJP loyal votes and he used to go for the election. But this time, even BJP doesn't have a chief minister's face. So now this Hindutva or Hindu narrative is being played. This might be the strategy where they can polarize and divide votes and which can fetch benefits. So this has been tested and tried in other states as well. So likewise, the best place to try is Dakshina Kannada and Udupi district.
Also, now with the Muslim students demanding they be allowed entry in colleges while wearing a hijab and other students protesting against it by wearing saffron shawls, where is this controversy headed now?
Okay. On Tuesday, Karnataka High Court is scheduled to hear the case, which is filed by one of the students of Udupi district. Her name is Resham. She has filed a writ petition before the court asking to allow her inside the college. There have been multiple orders when it comes to dress code, where several state high courts have given judgments on, and there is a Supreme Court order also. So hopefully, if Karnataka High Court intervenes and tells the government or issue directions to the government, I think this issue can be solved temporarily, but this is going to come back if the government doesn't formulate a guideline. And education department has already issued an order asking to form a committee to formulate a new guideline which could be implemented from next academic year.
Now, like Kiran mentioned, things right now are tense between those protesting for and against the banning of the hijab. Every other day, videos of students have been going viral, including a recent one that shows Hindu students walking together, wearing saffron shawls and chanting Jai Shri Ram. But besides this, a major development in the matter came on Saturday, when the Karnataka government issued a directive in the matter. This directive essentially validated the decision of various colleges that are banning the hijab. It said that, quote, clothes which disturb equality, integrity, and public law and order should not be worn, unquote. We now talk to Apurva Vishwanath, who writes on law for the paper, about the government's argument behind issuing this directive.
So what the state government is essentially invoking is a 1983 legislation on governing pre-university colleges or other educational institutions. So in this act, particularly section 133 clause 2, the act gives state government some powers to issue directives or basically a framework of rules for these institutions to follow. So these are essentially bureaucratic rules. It is issued under the order of the head of the education department. So the Karnataka government in that referred to an older directive, a 2013 directive that they'd already issued on school uniforms, and adding to that specifically bars wearing of the headscarf. But in this directive, what the government essentially says is, if you have your own set of rules, that is, if the college or the educational institution has its own set of rules, then you go by those rules. In the absence of those rules, this directive should be adhered to. So there the government goes on to say that banning the headscarf is not violative of fundamental rights. They go into a couple of case laws, one from the Kerala High Court, one from the Madras High Court, to talk about like a for and against situation here. There is a ruling of the Kerala High Court which allowed the school management to not allow two minor girls here in this case to wear a full-sleeved clothing and a headscarf. So the Karnataka government takes respite in that order of the Kerala High Court and says the law is on our side. We've looked into this issue. There is a ruling of the Kerala High Court which has not allowed two girls in a school to wear anything but the school uniform. And also in that Kerala High Court ruling, the judge talked about balancing of rights and says collective rights, which is the school management's right, should be given primacy over individual rights of a woman, or in that case, minor students. So the Karnataka High Court sort of takes all of this and makes a case that they have the power to bar headscarves from being worn in schools.
Okay, so then Apurva, what have legal experts said about this directive and the government's reading or interpretation of this Kerala High Court judgment?
So the Kerala High Court judgment is single judge ruling involving two minor girls. The case was fought by their father. So again, although the court doesn't specifically say this, the minor girls went to what is a Christian missionary school, which is essentially a minority educational institution, which has more freedom to conduct its own affairs and regulate its business. So you can make a separate case in that instance. But to be fair, when the case was again appealed in the High Court before a division bench, which is a two-judge bench, the father abandoned the case. The High Court actually doesn't decide the case on merits, saying that it's infructuous. There is an Indian Express story which says that these two minor girls actually dropped out and didn't go to school after the case. So the Kerala High Court case is contextual. There are other things to be considered, but the state government directive ignores a bunch of other rulings, which is actually contradictory. In fact, the Kerala High Court itself has allowed students who were giving the All India Pre-Medical Entrance Test to wear headscarves and traditional clothing to exam centers, overruling CBI's concerns that devices for cheating could be concealed in layers of clothing. So the High Court said, have them reach the exam center half an hour before, frisk them, ask them to remove their piece of clothing, ask them to be checked by a female invigilator. So the Kerala High Court put in a number of checks and balances, but eventually allowed these girls to wear their headscarves to the exam center. Of course, that's now being challenged before the Supreme Court, but the Kerala High Court ruling currently stands on that issue. Again, there is a case in which the Madras High Court, where the petitioner, a medical student, had challenged the MGR Medical College directive that all fourth-year interns should wear a sari compulsorily. So this petitioner again was allowed to wear a salwar kameez as she deemed fit. Madras High Court, in fact, fined the medical college in this case. So there are other cases which the Karnataka government directive ignores or does not refer to. So there is a lot to be looked into in that order. Religious freedom and the manner of exercising that fundamental right is not something that can be so easily diluted by saying that this is not desirable. There are no reasons that the state government directive says why a headscarf is antithetical to maintaining order in a school or discipline in a school.
And Apurva, a lot of different things are being said about this controversy, right? Like people are saying that the decision to ban hijab makes sense because educational institutions should be secular. And anyway, hijabs are oppressive for women. While there are others who say that it should be the woman's choice and that people from other religions also have markers. So what are the narratives that have emerged out of these conversations? And have we seen these conversations being addressed in legal cases in the past? Like something that may have talked about an item of clothing being considered oppressive and a woman's choice regarding it?
So not specifically oppressive to women, but there have been cases in which wearing of a turban, for example, or growing a beard for a Muslim who is in the armed forces, these cases have come up before the court. And the court has always maintained that when it comes to the armed forces or the security forces, there is a special interest that the state might have in these issues. So as a corollary, you could argue that when it is not the armed forces, when it is not a specific case that's made out, there could be greater need to balance the freedom of religion. And one celebrated Supreme Court judgment is the case of Bijoy Emmanuel, where two students who cited their religious beliefs to be allowed to not sing the national anthem were in fact permitted by the Supreme Court and said singing of the national anthem is not compulsory. Paying respect to the national anthem, standing up, this is what is important. But the Supreme Court actually upheld the right to not sing the national anthem during a school prayer. So there are these issues, but now it comes down to whether just a hijab, wearing of a hijab, because particularly the Karnataka state government order talks only about a headscarf. It does not talk about other religious markers. Does it extend to a Christian student? Does it extend to a turban by a Sikh student? Does it extend to even a skull cap by a Muslim student, right? It only talks about headscarf that is worn by Muslim girls. So the order is problematic in many ways, but this is also legal terrain that has sort of been uncharted. If there is a larger legal tussle on this in courts, this could be a moment of reckoning in testing the right to religious freedom and personal autonomy, especially in a gendered context.
You were listening to Three Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.